Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Ringside Wrestling Entertainment. This is Joel Perez here for your weekly episodic news show. This is Behind the Mic, and it is Behind the Mic episode number 59, of course. This is the show where we talk about all the biggest news in the WWE, and we certainly have that tenfold here today. Of course, this past week on WWE programming, big week for WWE programming, if I might say so myself. We had the Ultimate Deletion, and of course, the shocking return of Daniel Bryan to in-ring competition was announced this past Tuesday and was executed upon quite wonderfully, might I add, in Smackdown Live Television, or on Smackdown Live Television, and we've got news on that. We've got news on what Daniel Bryan has to do to get cleared by the WWE after every single match that he has. We've got news on the very matchup that he's going to have at WrestleMania, getting a special stipulation. The Ultimate Deletion, we have news on that. It was left off of Hulu. Could that be a sign to WWE not valuing the Ultimate Deletion? Because WWE, of course, in that Hulu package needs to include the most important parts of Raw and condense that into an hour and 30 minutes. So that is a very interesting topic of discussion. We've got news regarding the Universal Championship picture after WrestleMania 34 and who Roman Reigns' first opponent, or might I say victim, be after WrestleMania 34. So we have news on that. WWE in negotiations once again with Hulk Hogan. Very interesting stuff there. And news on WWE leaving an important matchup off of the WrestleMania 34 this year, and I have a lot to say about that. So that is all the news we have here. Of course, we have so much more, but before we get into talking about all that, I just want to tell you guys to make sure to go check out all the other content on the Ringside Wrestling YouTube channel. Getting prepared on the channel are we for a huge week of content, and I mean huge week of content that is coming preceding April 8th and on April 8th itself, because of course we are a couple weeks away from the biggest WWE show, the biggest wrestling show, no doubt about it, of the year, WrestleMania, and that means the biggest week of content of the year, right here on Ringside Wrestling. That means Monday Night Raw and Smackdown review on Monday and Tuesday. That means preview and predictions for WrestleMania on Thursday. Preview and predictions for NXT TakeOver on Friday. Behind the Mic on Saturday. Your NXT TakeOver review as well on Saturday. And, of course, the big culminating event, the biggest show of the year, WrestleMania 34. That review will be up. We might also do WrestleMania 34 match simulations on WWE 2K18 with my commentary over it. See how that goes. Maybe I'll do some news videos, some breaking news videos for the week. It's going to be some crazy stuff that weekend of spring break, I believe it is, April 8th. And that entire week is going to be crazy content. So if there's any time to subscribe, there's no better time to subscribe to the Ringside Wrestling channel than now. Of course, you had your Raw and SmackDown reviews earlier this week. Full-fledged reviews right there. You can go and check those out if you missed Raw or SmackDown this week, or you want an educated opinion on Raw or SmackDown this week, or both of those things. Make sure to go check out the Raw and SmackDown review, as well as to like this video and tell me what you think about all these news stories, because for now, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go straight into the news stories. And we start off here of course, with the biggest news of the week. It had to do with the real face of the WWE. Anybody who tells me otherwise, I will tell you straight to your face that you are wrong. Daniel Bryan is the real face of the WWE, and we have news on the real face of the WWE because, of course, he will be forced to undergo some severe medical testing, and that is what was required in order for him to get cleared. So I'm going to read you, of course, this news article talking about what Daniel Bryan has to undergo in order to get cleared by the WWE to compete, and then I'm going to give you my thoughts on that. The WWE Universe is still buzzing after WWE doctors finally medically cleared Daniel Bryan to wrestle again. With less than 3 weeks to go until WrestleMania 34, most fans are thinking about the new possibilities that have presented themselves for Bryan in New Orleans and upcoming dream matches. However, he's not exactly out of the woods just yet because WWE officials had stipulations for him if he wanted to wrestle inside a WWE ring. According to a report from Wrestling Observer newsletter, Daniel Bryan has agreed to an extremely strict concussion protocol and will be examined by doctors immediately after working matches. Bryan's health is the top priority for WWE officials, so he'll be undergoing those tests after every match until the powers that be are satisfied Bryan is absolutely healthy and doesn't need to be watched for serious injuries any longer. Daniel Bryan will be under a microscope, but he's been given the green light to wrestle, and he didn't waste any time on Smackdown Live this week. He brawled with Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn before being taken out of the arena on a stretcher. The injury angle could lead to Bryan's involvement in a big tag team match with Shane McMahon, Owens, and Zayn at WrestleMania 34, but it's possible that WWE officials may not allow Bryan to wrestle a full match so quickly after being cleared. Wrestle News is reporting that Daniel Bryan has been training over the past 2 years, and there have been other rumors about him helping Brie Bella to train in their backyard. That also explains why he looked so great on SmackDown Live and didn't have any ring rust. WWE officials will be more likely to book him for a match on the grandest stage of them all if the powers that be set the huge tag team match for the event. After 3 years of waiting, the WWE Universe is anxious to see what Bryan does on WWE programming going forward. The possibilities are endless, but like Kurt Angle before him, WWE officials aren't expected to let Daniel Bryan wrestle without being positive that he's healthy. The WWE Universe has been patient, but the fans just need to wait a little longer to see what's next for the creator of the Yes Movement going forward. This is good news, and it is nothing but good news because you have to admit to yourselves that as much as you want to see Daniel Bryan back, and I've had to admit this to myself as well, and I've thought about this rigorously, is okay, he's back, but that does not stop him from coming back and getting injured once again, because WWE, whether you are along the ride of this conspiracy theory or not, that WWE purposely made it so Daniel Bryan was forced to retire due to get Roman Reigns over, I partially agree with that theory that many people are throwing around and believe along the YouTube wrestling community and internet wrestling community as well. I partially agree with that. But you still have to take into consideration the fact that Daniel Bryan got injured 2 times in a row. He did have a concussion, suffer from a concussion, and had to be out, had to relinquish the WWE Championship, had to relinquish the Intercontinental Championship. Those things happened, and WWE needs to take the proper protocol to make sure that those things don't happen again, especially if they're going to push Daniel Bryan into a position where he is the face of the company, a position that all of us want to see him in, because who doesn't want to see Daniel Bryan versus AJ Styles, Daniel Bryan versus Shinsuke Nakamura, Daniel Bryan versus Samoa Joe, Seth Rollins, Finn Balor, Rusev, this guy, the next guy? Who doesn't want to see that? I know I do. So WWE, they have to do something in order to make sure that Daniel Bryan is 100% ready to go. They have to do something in order to ensure that they're not just sending this guy out there to kill himself, pretty much. Because you know that Daniel Bryan, when he's in that ring, he's going to want to go 110%. He's going to want to go 120%. He's going to push the limits of what you can do in that ring, because that's the type of performer that Daniel Bryan is, and you can very easily get hurt doing that type of style. I'm sure that Daniel Bryan isn't going to be wrestling the same high-risk style. He's going to be changing up a couple of those moves like he has to. He's not going to be doing suicide dives through the middle rope every night like he used to, even though he did say in his retirement speech that that was his favorite thing to do. I don't think he's going to be able to do that anymore, because you're highly risking at this point injury. That's why WWE didn't clear him, because they didn't want to take that risk. They also have all these old legends coming out in this concussion lawsuit and trying to sue them and get money because they suffered heavy concussions and their lives were put at risk by the WWE style. So WWE wants to make sure that they keep that lawsuit at bay with the clearance of Daniel Bryan, and they want to make sure that this performer is as safe as possible, because you do not want to have this guy emerge to the top of the spectrum of WWE just so he can fall down again. You want to be able to take this to 150%. You want to be able to take Daniel Bryan to the moon. You want to have him win the WWE Championship again. You want to have him create a 5-star match with AJ Styles. And you can't do that if the guy climbs up to the top just to get hurt again. So, WWE, the proper protocol is being taken. Daniel Bryan's having to get checked after every match until they're confident that he's good. And I'm confident that he is good. But just for that small percentage that he can go in there and get hurt, I'm glad WWE is taking this measure, because, quite frankly, I don't want to see Daniel Bryan have to retire once again. I don't want to see Daniel Bryan have to go through the heartbreak of losing something that he so dearly loves once again. He's back, and we're all celebrating, but we need to understand that there's still somewhat of a risk there, and WWE, I'm glad they understand that. They're not getting caught up in the hype like everybody else is, and they're going to do what needs to be done to make this Daniel Bryan situation, make it something big. And that's exactly what we all want it to be. What we saw on Smackdown Live was fantastic, but we want to see that continue. And hopefully, with this news, that means that Daniel Bryan is in safe hands, like I'm sure he is, and that it will continue. For now, we move on here to the next news story, right here on Behind the Mic. And we move on here to this news story on Roman Reigns and who his next opponent will be coming out of WrestleMania, because we all know Roman Reigns is going to win the Universal Championship at WrestleMania from Brock Lesnar. That's pretty much set in stone. Just goes to show you how predictable the main event of WrestleMania is. But apparently it's already being predicted who Roman Reigns' opponent will be after WrestleMania 34. This is per Dave Meltzer, of course, of the Wrestling Observer. While fans have seen WWE rumors for months about Roman Reigns taking on Brock Lesnar for the Universal title, new speculation has arisen about his first opponent after WrestleMania 34. Recently, wrestling journalist Dave Meltzer weighed in with his thoughts on the situation as far as who he believes to be the first choice for Reigns' opponent after a WrestleMania 34 victory. It could bring a major foe for Roman Reigns to begin feuding with as the new champion, but not an opponent he's unfamiliar with. Here's the latest on who might be Reigns' first significant feud after a Universal Championship win. As reported via Sportskeeda, Leonard Sarao, I don't know how the hell to pronounce his name, Dave Meltzer of Wrestling Observer Radio spoke about the original plan for Roman Reigns after WrestleMania 34. Meltzer was fielding a question involving who Braun Strowman's mystery partner might be for the WWE Raw Tag Team match, with someone suggesting Samoa Joe as a choice. However, Meltzer said that the original plan was to have Joe feuding with Reigns after WrestleMania 34. That could indicate that this plan is still intact, as Samoa Joe is said to be close to his official return, and fans already know that Brock Lesnar rarely appears in Raw matches these days, if on the show at all. Samoa Joe and Roman Reigns have battled quite a bit in the past before. Joe was out with the injury suffered several months ago during a Raw match. Joe took on Reigns in his debut match as a member of the Raw roster, as well as in an Intercontinental title match on Raw later on. These two also collided in the ring during several battles over Brock Lesnar's WWE Universal title as well. Since his arrival on the main roster, Samoa Joe has yet to win any of the championships, and it's probably not likely that WWE would give him the Universal title from Roman Reigns so quickly. Joe's time will come one day, but he's probably more likely to capture the Intercontinental or United States title first. However, this could provide a good first feud for Reigns, coming off the big WrestleMania win, as well as a way to put Samoa Joe back into the main picture. It also leads one to wonder if WWE is planning to have Brock Lesnar use a rematch, or not even worry about it, and when his title run has ended. Nonetheless, one has to think there will be quite a line of superstars after WrestleMania 34 who feel they're already deserving of a Universal title shot. So time will tell. There you go with that. I do not believe that this is the wrong way to go, but then again, I don't believe that it's the right way to go either. I mean, you're really dealing with a dilemma when it comes to this Roman Reigns being Universal Champion situation, because, I mean, you've put it so every situation lines up for it to make sense to be Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar. Nobody wants to see that matchup, but realistically, that's what WWE set up. We are lying in that bed. We're officially on the road to that. We're well into the road to that feud between Lesnar and Reigns at WrestleMania 34. And we're going to see it. Reigns is going to win the title. All right. But then you're in this dilemma where everybody on Raw you want to see succeed over Roman Reigns. Everybody on Raw you want to see overcome the Roman Reigns initiative. So it becomes this problem where, yeah, you're putting Samoa Joe against Roman Reigns, and you don't necessarily expect Samoa Joe to win that matchup, and that's all right. There's no reason for Samoa Joe to come back from injury straight into a Universal Championship win for him to win the Universal Championship. There's no reason for that. But you just don't want to see Reigns hold it. So what you need to do, in my opinion, is as good as the feud with Roman Reigns would be, and Samoa Joe and Reigns could put on a great match, and Samoa Joe cuts a hell of a promo, and it would be a damn good feud coming out of WrestleMania, no doubt about it. I don't want to see Joe lose to Reigns. I just don't want to see that. It sounds terrible. It sounds absolutely god-awful. What you need to do, and what would be the top situation that I would go with, I know WWE's not going to go with this, but what I would do is turn Roman Reigns heel either at Mania or the Raw after Mania, turn Reigns heel and have him feud with a babyface Seth Rollins, or have him feud with a babyface Braun Strowman, or have him feud with anybody. The list of opponents for Roman Reigns after turning babyface, or heel I should say, opens up tremendously. He can literally feud with anybody on the Monday Night Raw roster. That opens it up for Roman Reigns versus Finn Balor, Roman Reigns versus Seth Rollins, Roman Reigns versus Braun Strowman. If they have a draft and Styles comes to Raw, Roman Reigns versus AJ Styles. Daniel Bryan is cleared now. Roman Reigns versus Daniel Bryan. Even though I think that's a WrestleMania caliber feud right there. A babyface Daniel Bryan versus a heel Roman Reigns, no doubt about it. But you have that as well. Samoa Joe versus Roman Reigns. One, we've already seen it for the Intercontinental Championship. And second, it's an L for Joe. Why not have Samoa Joe come back and feud for the Intercontinental Championship with Finn Balor coming out of WrestleMania? Maybe even picks up the strap. I don't know. There's a lot better things you can do with Samoa Joe than to have him go into a feud with Roman Reigns where it's just going to be one big feast for Roman Reigns and everybody else gets screwed in the situation. I mean, there is a benefit to Reigns winning the Universal title. Don't get me wrong there. Because, yes, the title's back on Raw. Yes, there's actually going to be something to fight for on Monday Night Raw. But then, on the flip side, who the hell do you want to see Reigns beat? There's not anybody who I want to see Roman Reigns beat. I like everybody on that roster more than Roman Reigns. Samoa Joe, I'd rather see Samoa Joe beat Roman Reigns than to have Samoa Joe lose to Roman Reigns. You bring over an AJ Styles to feud with Roman Reigns. I'd rather see AJ Styles beat Roman Reigns for the Universal Championship. Seth Rollins, I want to see Rollins beat Roman Reigns. Nothing that presents itself there makes it so I want to see a babyface Roman Reigns win. And that's your problem there. The end result is always going to be garbage with Roman Reigns as your Universal Champion. So, I'd rather see him turn heel. I'd rather see him feud against a babyface because realistically, Roman Reigns would excel in that role. Meanwhile, you're not going to have Brock Lesnar fighting for the Universal Championship either. He's gone after WrestleMania. And if he is back, he's going to be there to fight Bobby Lashley, who's apparently coming in. And even Bobby Lashley, if he's pushed into a main event position right away, I'd rather see Bobby Lashley beat Roman Reigns for that Universal title. So everybody who Reigns goes against, I want to see beat him. That dilemma is stricken away when he turns heel. Because a heel, the situation is that you want to see the heel be beat. So, I mean, WWE really books themselves into a corner when making it Roman Reigns, the babyface Universal Champion, against every heel that comes into the picture. I'd rather see Samoa Joe fight for the Intercontinental Championship. At this point, it doesn't look like he's going to be at WrestleMania. He probably is cleared by the WWE and he is ready to go, but it looks like Samoa Joe is going to miss his second straight WrestleMania, and that is so unfortunate. WWE has a stacked card for WrestleMania, so there's really no place to put him unless you want to put him in the Andre the Giant pre-show Battle Royal, because that's what it's going to be. I have no idea, but realistically there is no spot unless he does come out as Strowman's partner for Samoa Joe right now. But it's just really unfortunate that, alright, they're going to make a great feud. There's no doubt about that. But realistically, if you think about it, what's the end result? Reigns is just going to get another W, and that doesn't interest me, and I know for a fact that it doesn't interest you. So that's the situation that has presented itself. Samoa Joe will be the opponent for Roman Reigns coming out of WrestleMania 34. Sound off, what do you think about that? Leave it in the comment section below, because for now, we're going straight into the next news story. And this next news story really frustrates me because it has to do with the Ultimate Deletion. And one of my biggest concerns coming out of the Ultimate Deletion is how it would be perceived by the WWE higher-ups, aka by Vince McMahon. And pretty much this goes to show you that they did not like it. They did not like it. They found it that it was pretty much weird and freaky and not WWE-esque, not worth everything that WWE does. It's not worth what they do with the Roman Reigns and the Brock Lesnar's and the Alexa Blisses. It's not a WWE production, and for that, it's not going to be featured. And unfortunately, the fan feedback was not enough to sway them in a different direction. WWE cuts the Ultimate Deletion match from Hulu. On Monday Night Raw, the feud between Matt Hardy and Bray Wyatt culminated in the Ultimate Deletion match. This match was a reincarnation of the Impact Wrestling Final Deletion match between Matt and Jeff Hardy, which turns out to be one of the most popular matches in Impact history. In fact, there was even speculation that WWE talent watched the match, and it inspired the bizarre match between the Wyatt family and the New Day. In an attempt to put lightning in a bottle twice, WWE aired the Ultimate Deletion match at the end of the program. The match started with Wyatt entering the Hardy compound and being approached by Matt Hardy. Via a hologram on Vanguard 1, Wyatt, carrying his lantern, walked down the path in anticipation to brawl with his nemesis. During the match, both Hardy and Wyatt experienced advantages, but this match had a bit less theatrics and props than the Impact Wrestling Final Deletion match. There was a part of the segment where the two entered the Dome of Deletion, which is a wrestling ring in the warehouse portion of the Hardy home, and was also where the Hardys hosted an episode of Impact Wrestling. The episode was called Non-Stop Deletion and featured appearances from Disco Inferno, Hornswoggle, as well as WWE Hall of Famers Ricky Morton, Robert Gibson, and Road Warrior Animal. In the end, Hardy defeated Wyatt, and Brother Nero, Jeff Hardy, appeared to face Wyatt before he was thrown into the Lake of Reincarnation. While the match itself received mixed reviews from the WWE Universe, it did generate a heavy buzz that is still being discussed today. Unfortunately for subscribers of Hulu, the match was almost entirely unavailable. In addition to it cutting off after only a couple of minutes on the live version, the 90-minute version did not show the match at all. According to people who complained about this issue, a fan reached out to Hulu as to why the match was not added to the condensed version, and they responded, "Our rights to WWE content allow us to post pre-formatted 90-minute specials of Raw. We didn't make any edits on our end, but we'll share the concern about the omitted match with the right team here. Typically, since Hulu has to cut off the on-demand version in half, only the most important factors of Raw are included. Apparently, the Ultimate Deletion match did not make the cut regarding the level of importance, and fans were not happy at this decision. And they shouldn't be. And they shouldn't be happy. Because realistically, you think about it, and this goes to show you WWE's stance on the Ultimate Deletion. They don't care. They have no care for the Ultimate Deletion, and apparently Vince McMahon did not like the Ultimate Deletion. That's the report coming out. That is the report coming out. I enjoyed the hell out of it, and how you didn't get enjoyment out of it is beyond me. As far as the production goes, and all the wacky entertaining crap going on in the Ultimate Deletion, it was all very entertaining. There were things not to like. But as far as the entertainment aspect goes, and it being different than anything else, it was great. It was great. And the fact that Vince McMahon even had Michael Cole come on and say that he's sorry for what you're about to watch, that's despicable. That is absolutely despicable. It really, really is. And it was a success. It was a success. It brought the viewers in. Monday Night Raw hadn't kept above 3 million viewers for a third hour in a very, very long time. They hadn't. Probably since Raw 25, they haven't kept above 3 million views in the third hour. The Ultimate Deletion kept them there. So it was a success. And the fact that Vince McMahon, the WWE higher-ups, whoever the hell is in charge of cutting these Hulu 90-minute portions of WWE content up, which you shouldn't even have to cut out that many things, because an hour of WWE programming is pretty much commercials. So 30 minutes is really what you need to take out. 30 minutes. WWE couldn't have taken out anything else. They couldn't have taken out any irrelevant factor of the show. We saw a matchup between Absolution and Sasha Banks and Mickie James, a tag team matchup. That was so interesting. That had to be included, right? We couldn't take that one off. No. Ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. You had a bunch of overproduced garbage on Monday Night Raw. So much unnecessary propaganda-filled bullshit. for WrestleMania 34, you couldn't have taken any of that out. That had to be included. It didn't. It really, really didn't. You couldn't have included the Ultimate Deletion. Ridiculous stuff. Ridiculous stuff. It was probably the most noteworthy thing. It was the most noteworthy thing that happened on that show. Because what happens with Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar is completely irrelevant. I do not care. And another thing that outrages me is that the people who were there live in the arena apparently didn't even get to watch the Ultimate Deletion. They brought Ronda Rousey out during that time and put on some stupid matchup. I don't know. I have absolutely no idea. And then they post the segment to their YouTube channel. I mean, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? You could not have shown the Ultimate Deletion. That is petty and stupid, WWE. The fact that you didn't even give it a chance. The fact that you told, or Michael Cole said, that he's sorry for what you're about to watch. I mean, absolutely ridiculous garbage, bro. So ridiculous. And it just goes to show you the disrespect and the extremes and how this company operates. And it's garbage. It really, really is. And this frustrates the hell out of me. Because you can tell some love went into creating the Ultimate Deletion. And WWE completely throwing it under the bus. Hopefully they start to see and the fans start to get behind this. Because at first you are like, what the hell am I watching with all this Hardy crap? That's how I was. So hopefully, like it did in TNA, it starts slow. And it becomes something so big that you can't ignore. But in order for that to happen, WWE needs to get behind it. And right now, it doesn't seem like they are behind it at all. So hopefully, what we see on Raw next week continues to excite people and continues to take this to levels that we haven't seen before. Because right now, it looks like WWE gives no craps. And that is concerning and frustrating. Not just to me, but to Matt Hardy, Rebby Hardy, Jeff Hardy, everybody who put their time and effort into making this. Everybody. And it is ridiculous, to say the least. So for now, we move on here. Hopefully WWE does something about this situation. We move on here to this news story having to do with Daniel Bryan, Sami Zayn, Kevin Owens, and Shane McMahon, and their matchup possibly getting an interesting stipulation at WrestleMania 34. What that stipulation is, I will proceed to tell you right now as I read this news story. The return of Daniel Bryan has further increased the possibilities of surprises at WrestleMania 34. While it was previously speculated that Daniel Bryan would be involved in a limited capacity at the upcoming pay-per-view, his in-ring return will now lead to a more active involvement. It is being rumored that Daniel Bryan will be involved in a tag team match with Shane McMahon against Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. However, the tag team match at WrestleMania could have stipulations to make it more intriguing. Brian Alvarez of Wrestling Observer Live speculated that the match involving the four superstars could be an unsanctioned match or a street fight, as reported by Ringside News. Some subtle indications of such stipulations have already been seen during the last two episodes of Smackdown Live. Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn had brutally assaulted Shane McMahon a week before. Shane McMahon, who accepted that he was biased and stepped down as SmackDown commissioner, had to be taken for a medical evaluation following the brutal assault. Same scenes were observed during the last week of SmackDown Live when Daniel Bryan was assaulted after he fired Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. He, too bad to be taken out of the arena on a stretcher. So both Owens and Zayn were fired at the moment and no longer a part of SmackDown. WWE even went on to remove their profiles from the official website and move their names to the alumni section. Now that's pretty actually the attention to detail by the WWE. Very rare on the main roster. The previously declared singles match between Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn was also removed from the WrestleMania 34 match card. Kevin Owens also changed his Twitter handle to Kevin Steen, and I did not see this, and removed all references to WWE. As reported by WrestleZone, both WWE and Owens are going to great lengths to further sell the storyline, which I absolutely love. It is rumored that this storyline will be built over the course of the next 2 weeks. both Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn will remain fired until WrestleMania 34. Following the pay-per-view, they are expected to be drafted to WWE Raw as a part of a superstar shakeup. It is not yet clear whether Daniel Bryan has been cleared enough to take part in an unsanctioned match. However, it will be interesting to see an unsanctioned match if he has been cleared. It's unknown whether Shane or Daniel will return on the next episode of Smackdown Live. Given that we are about 2 weeks away from WrestleMania 34, things could develop quickly from here. I like it. The idea of an unsanctioned match sounds cooler, and for this type of feud that they're having, this has easily turned into the biggest match at WrestleMania 34. No doubt about it, just because of the involvement of Daniel Bryan. Daniel Bryan coming back is the biggest news that has hit the wrestling world in a very long time, and this is probably the biggest thing that could happen. The only thing bigger than this would be a return to the WWE by CM Punk, and I don't think that's happening until at least 2019. Not now. I don't think that's happening. We're going to have to see what happens with CM Punk's UFC fight that he's having, I believe, in June. And after that, if he's successful or not, if he's unsuccessful, I think that can for speeding up the process of his return. If he is successful, which I hope he is, I mean, CM Punk, you got to wish him well. You can't wish failure upon a venture like that. It's brave, it's inspiring, and he didn't do so well the first time, but the fact that he's not giving up, and that maybe we can see an underdog success story along the likes of Daniel Bryan, it's inspiring. So we got to see what happens, to say the least. But as far as Daniel Bryan goes, this is the biggest news story of all time that we can see in the WWE. Let me not say of all time. I don't like to say that. But as far as what can happen now, this is one of the biggest things that could have happened, and it happened. And that made this, by default, the biggest matchup at WrestleMania 34. And if this is the matchup that main events WrestleMania, I would not have a problem with that. The only two matches that I would really be okay with is these two matches main eventing WrestleMania 34. Either this match, the tag team matchup between Zayn, Owens, Bryan, and McMahon, or Nakamura and Styles. Clearly, I'd rather have Nakamura and Styles end the show, but I think WWE, regardless, is going to put Reigns and Lesnar at the end either way. Or they're going to go to the far extreme to put Ronda Rousey, Stephanie McMahon, Triple H, and Kurt Angle in the main event, just so they could say that women main evented WrestleMania. And imagine the earblood that it will be hearing Stephanie McMahon say that she was the first woman to main event WrestleMania. Holy crap. That would be terrible. So clearly, that's the reason I would like to see either this match or Styles and Nakamura, because of how great that's going to be main event WrestleMania. But that's a discussion that we'll go further into as the weeks approach WrestleMania. But as far as this matchup goes, the type of feud that they're in warrants it being unsanctioned. It makes a lot of sense with Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens being fired, Daniel Bryan being cleared to return to the WWE. They don't know if he's 100% yet, so they can be like, due to the fact that Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn are not members of a WWE roster, Shane McMahon isn't officially a WWE signed employee since he resigned as SmackDown Live commissioner, and Daniel Bryan, we're not sure yet if you're like good to go in the ring. We don't want to be responsible for you being hurt in the ring if that does go down. We don't want to be responsible for the livelihoods of either Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens or Shane McMahon. So you know what? It's unsanctioned. We don't want anything to do with it. You can go bonkers in the middle of that ring. And WWE will do so. And it could create for an awesome matchup. I mean, anytime a matchup is quote-unquote unsanctioned in the WWE, it turns out pretty well. Triple H and Shawn Michaels, 2002 SummerSlam, ring any bells, anybody? Certainly does to me. That was fantastic. That was absolutely fantastic. And I think what these four guys can do in an unsanctioned tag team matchup. I don't know how necessarily it would work. Would all 4 guys be in the ring all the time at the same time? I don't know, but it could lead to Daniel Bryan getting more physically involved. I like that. I like that a lot. Maybe Daniel Bryan could do something with chairs where he doesn't necessarily need to be throwing his body around. He can just swing around the weapons. It will be satisfying in that manner as well. So, I mean, I like the idea. I really, really do. It adds a layer of unpredictability to this matchup. It makes it so the matchup is more exciting because we're going to be possibly seeing weapons. These guys could work with that very well. I know when Kevin Owens goes into matches like this where it's like TLC and all these stipulations, he likes to do these crazy inventions. I know he used to do that as Kevin Steen in the Indies, and he did it in his Royal Rumble 2017 matchup with Roman Reigns, where he made the crazy contraption of chairs. So we could see a lot of interesting stuff, and it adds a layer to this matchup that was previously unseen. And with this being one of the biggest feuds you have going into WrestleMania, you should give it attention like this. You should make it special like this. And it looks like that's what WWE is on the path to doing. So all power to them. But for now, we move on to the next news story right here on Behind the Mic. And we move on here to this news story on WWE being in negotiations with Hulk Hogan to return to the WWE. Clearly not in an in-ring role, but the reports of discussions with WWE have been confirmed. After the recent return of Daniel Bryan, it appears that another significant return could happen anytime soon. Hulk Hogan, who had last appeared for WWE in July 2015, is believed to be in talks with WWE for his return to the company. Hulk Hogan was one of the most notable wrestlers before his exit from the company. Rumors of Hulk Hogan's return have been floating around for a long time. It appears that those rumors could soon turn out to be true, as Hulk Hogan and the WWE have been in discussions for past few weeks. As reported by PW Insider, WWE in a statement confirmed the talks were underway, but also clarified that Hogan was not under any contract with WWE as of now. At this point, there is no clarity on Hogan's exact role when he returns to WWE. The ideal role for him would be a Smackdown Live Authority, considering the fact that Shane has taken leave of absence and Daniel Bryan has made his in-ring return. Given that Hulk Hogan is 64 years old, the non-active wrestling role would be ideal for him. It is also rumored that he could enter the 50-man Royal Rumble in Saudi Arabia. Braun Strowman is also in need of a partner in the tag team title match at WrestleMania 34, which could also be an opportunity for Hulk Hogan to return. Hulk Hogan was fired from WWE after Gawker posted a 2006 tape of Hogan making racist and inflammatory comments. The tape was recorded by Hogan's former friend, Bubba the Love Sponge. Hulk Hogan went on to sue the site for trying to ruin his wrestling career. Hogan would then win the case and $115 million, which later came down to $31 million. While Hogan won the case, the controversy resulted in his relationship with WWE turning sour. Hogan later said in an interview to the New York Post that he was not a racist person. However, he was infuriated with the manner in which his daughter was being treated by her boyfriend, who was African American. It appears WWE may have fired him back then to protect the company and could now be planning to bring him back to benefit the company. Meanwhile, it was reported that Hulk Hogan is scheduled to appear at the premiere of the Andre the Giant documentary. While that does not mean that Hogan is back with WWE, it could be a first step for the return of Hulk Hogan to the WWE. I think this is about time that Hulk Hogan comes back. I mean, you go back and you listen to the comments that Hulk Hogan made, and they are truly unforgivable. He says some nasty, nasty stuff. But I mean, being said that it is unforgivable, you have to learn how to bury a hatchet, and you need to learn how to let things go. And I think that's what WWE is doing here. You got your big slap on the wrist, you got your whooping, you got hit with the belt, right? You learned your lesson, but now it's time to come back. It's time to come to the dinner table. It's time to spread the wealth. And that's what WWE is doing here. And they waited, I would say, an appropriate amount of time. Things have certainly died down with this situation. I still think, every time I think of Hulk Hogan to this day, that's what I think of. I think of him not being associated with the WWE due to these inflammatory comments. But realistically, at this point, I think WWE is ready to bury the hatchet. They're ready to bring Hulk Hogan back. He's been mentioned multiple times on WWE television. And I mean, you can't just blacklist and not have a star the level of Hulk Hogan not affiliated with your company. I mean, he is one of the biggest names in not just WWE history, in wrestling history. Hulk Hogan, he was the biggest star WWE had throughout the late 80s, early 90s, and I mean, realistically, can't be erased from history. You just cannot do that. You really can't. So that's why WWE, instead of just keeping him away and keeping this entire story away from them, they waited the appropriate amount of time. They took the more than proper course of action, because what he did was what he said was crazy stuff that should not be uttered by any human being. But, I mean, realistically, WWE did what they had to do. They said, we're cutting ties with you. We don't want to be associated with a person like that. They waited the amount of time. Hulk Hogan has since said his sorries. But, I mean, they're going to bring him back in. And I think that in order to bring him back in, the true thing that he needs to do was said by, I believe, Mark Henry or somebody on the WWE's roster, on the black side of WWE's roster. They said that what Hulk Hogan needs to do is that he needs to say sorry and apologize to every black member of WWE's roster, every African American member of WWE's roster. And I think that's absolutely true. If that's what they feel will amend those ties and bury the hatchet, then that's exactly what you need to do, because it's offensive what Hulk Hogan said. It's very, very offensive, and nobody should say something like that. It's a ridiculous thing to say what he said. So, if he wants to prove that he's truly not racist, and that he didn't mean what he said, and that was a long time ago, and clearly that was at a moment of anger, then yeah, sure, you can come back, but apologize to every member of the African American WWE roster. I mean, that sounds absolutely perfect to me. That sounds absolutely perfect to me, because there's no reason that Hulk Hogan should just come back. He shakes Vince McMahon's hand. They make a money-making contract, right? And Hulk Hogan walks away scot-free. There's no reason that this should be unaddressed upon Hulk Hogan's entry back into the WWE. You want to let him back in? He needs to apologize. Because quite frankly, I don't think I've heard a formal apology. Hulk Hogan realistically won that story. He benefited from Gawker releasing that. He won $31 million. I know I would like to win $31 million. And Hulk Hogan won a very easy $31 million. Gawker's gone now because Hulk Hogan, he won that case. So, I mean, he does not deserve to walk away scot-free. He pretty much, let's say, served his time by being fired from the WWE, but there's no reason for him to come back and for this not to be mentioned. He needs to apologize to every member of the African American WWE roster, because quite frankly, there's no reason that what he said should go without an apology. That is my thoughts on that. For now, we move on to the next and final news story right here on Behind the Mic. And the final news story here on Behind the Mic is a frustrating one, because WWE has left a very, very vital matchup off of WrestleMania 34's card. Of course, it is Sasha Banks versus Bayley, and here's the reason why it was pulled from the WrestleMania 34 card. After making history in Brooklyn almost 3 years ago, the WWE Universe has been waiting for Bayley and Sasha Banks to rekindle their rivalry on the main roster ever since. Most fans believe the Boss would eventually betray Bayley, which did technically happen during the Women's Elimination Chamber match. However, it's still unlikely their match will be on the card for WrestleMania 34 in a couple of weeks. While speaking with News Hub earlier this month, Bayley admitted there might not be enough room on the card for her match with Sasha Banks. There are extremely strict time restrictions for the show, and it's just a reality that every feud can't be given the time for a singles match. According to a report by Dirty Sheets, there may be some real heat on both Bayley and Sasha Banks that kept WWE officials from booking their match. Apparently, the boss has some heat with WWE Creative, and Bayley has even more than Sasha. After WWE officials canceled the long-rumored Battle of the Horsewomen rivalry, both women were told their rivalry would culminate in a title match at WrestleMania 34. However, creative plans changed, and the choice was made for Alexa Bliss to defend the Raw Women's Championship against Nia Jax instead, which left Bayley and Sasha without anything significant to do on the grandest stage of them all. Both women reacted poorly. The boss confronted Vince McMahon about the changes in booking and eventually went public about those discussions with him. Bayley also took to social media about her disappointment with how her rivalry with Sasha Banks has been handled by WWE Creative. Their criticism has given them a reputation of being very ungrateful, and that may have really hurt their chances for a singles match on the grandest stage of them all. WWE officials haven't officially scrapped their match yet, but the WWE Universe may not appreciate such a historic rivalry being regulated to the pre-show. On paper, it's far more likely for WWE officials to save the heel turn for Sasha Banks until after WrestleMania and feature their feud over the coming months and into WWE SummerSlam. Unless creative plans change again, both Bayley and Sasha Banks will be competing in the WrestleMania Women's Battle Royal. WWE officials could still book an angle for them during the bout. I mean, realistically, I did hear the specifics on this story on Sasha Banks and Bayley, and Sasha Banks did what you're expected to do about Vince McMahon, or with Vince McMahon when you don't agree with the booking's decision. Vince McMahon, he went on the Stone Cold podcast. He's said before multiple times that you have to go and grab the brass ring. That's his famous term. You got to grab the brass ring. Well, Sasha Banks, she was attempting to do that. She went to Vince McMahon, confronted him about the booking decision, and clearly that conversation didn't go well. She did something, she said something that ticked Vince McMahon off. She didn't confront him in the correct manner because clearly what she did ticked him off. Now, Bayley is said to have even more heat than Sasha Banks. Now, you look at the tweet that Bayley posted, and apparently she said something very vague. She said, things are getting, she said something very vague. It really could have applied to anything. I don't know what the exact tweet was. She tweeted something very, very vague. Very, very vague. And WWE officials get mad about that. They get mad about that. I mean, it's appalling to me. It is appalling to me. You look at realistically, and it doesn't have to do with the attitudes of these women at all, but you realistically look at what on paper and what is going to benefit your company, what's going to be the money-making move going into WrestleMania as far as the women's angle goes. What is one of your most successful women's rivalry? What have you not capitalized on the main roster? Sasha Banks versus Bayley. But apparently WWE doesn't like making money. They don't like generating interest. They don't like doing any of that. Not at all. They like to sit back and get mad and get flustered and take little things and blow them out of proportion, because quite frankly, what Bayley and Sasha Banks did are small things. WWE, they tell you to grab for the brass ring. Well, Sasha Banks goes, confronts Vince McMahon. That pisses him off. What the hell? Are you kidding me? She's going to you and she's asking you why. You made a mistake. WWE made a mistake. They told these women months in advance, at least as far as the Survivor Series, that the plan was going to be to have Sasha Banks versus Bayley in a women's championship matchup. And you're telling these women this ahead of time as if it's sealed, it's confirmed, and they're getting all excited about, all right, we're going to go into a rivalry against each other. We're good friends. We did this once. We wanted to relive this on the main roster. And You tell them this, you get their hopes up just to let them down, just to go with Alexa and Nia instead? I mean, what type of decision is that as a company? What type of decision is that to do that to your talent? That's absolutely ridiculous if you ask me. Very, very ridiculous. And the fact that WWE didn't go with Sasha Banks versus Bayley, it's just a better option. I mean, on what planet is that not the better option? On what planet do you see Sasha and Bayley putting on a lesser match than Nia and Alexa? On what planet do you see Sasha and Bayley putting on a lesser storyline than Nia and Alexa? I mean, you go back to what they did on NXT, and you'll easily see that they made magic. They put on the best women's matchup, and this is according to WWE themselves. They put on the best women's matchup of all time. Why wouldn't you want to relive that? I was booking it for months on end, for probably right after WrestleMania 34. I was booking that. WWE, they were booking it themselves. What changed? What changed? These women did a little bit of something that pissed you off a little bit, and you had to take that and say, you know what? Yeah, we're not going with that anymore. So instead of giving the fans what they want, instead of doing what's going to benefit you, you go with something completely different, and something that I quite frankly have no interest in, and Nia and Alexa and a lot of other people do not have interest in Nia and Alexa, just to prove a point that doesn't need to be proven. Absolutely ridiculous stuff. This pisses me the hell off, and quite frankly, it just goes to show you how twisted the priorities of this company are. They do not give a crap about putting on good television, about putting on good shows. They care about making money. And quite frankly, they care about making money and sticking it to people and proving to those people that they are better than you, they are above you. And that's true, they are above Sasha and Bayley. But Sasha and Bayley were realistically going to make you money. And WWE failed to realize that, just to prove a point that didn't need to be proven. And that is absolutely ridiculous. For now, that is going to be all right here on Behind the Mic. We're going to move on to the closing segments. For now, that's going to be all right here on Behind the Mic, episode number 59. I hope you all sincerely enjoyed what you heard here. I sincerely enjoyed talking about every single thing on this episode of Behind the Mic. Of course, if you enjoyed what you heard here, make sure to like this video. Make sure to comment what you thought about everything in the comment section below. Tell me if you liked me. Tell me if you hated me, of course. Of course, make sure to tell me what your opinions are on the news stories that you heard here on Behind the Mic as well. To subscribe to the Ringside Wrestling YouTube channel. If you enjoyed the content that you heard here, make sure to go check out the Raw and Smackdown reviews if you're not quite sold yet. I mean, why wouldn't you be sold yet? But that is a point to make in another video, because for now, this has been all right here on Behind the Mic, episode number 59. This is going to be it for now. This has been Joel Perez, and I am out of here. Thank you very, very much for watching this video. I'll see you all next time right here on Ringside Wrestling.